Hey there YouTube, welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, I'm going to get into a cool little system I want to talk to you about. And this is for all you solitaire gamers out there, whether you're a war gamer, board gamer, RPG gamer. This is something that's pretty much universal across all of them and can be utilized for all of them, and it's a great tool. So before I get into the video, if you like the video, click the like button. Lets me know you like the content, and it'll also bring more gaming content to you as well. Not just me, other creators out there as well. And if you're new, just stumbled across my channel and you're interested in the whole conception of solitaire games, feel free to click that subscribe button, and every time I upload, you'll get a notification so you don't miss one. So this was referred to me through a friend of mine, and he used it and he loved it and talked about it quite a bit. And so I had looked into it, and it's called the Solo System. So some of you may already have this, may be familiar with it. Other of you out there may have never heard of it and do not know what it is, and I'm going to jump into it and get into it and explain to you how it works and really what I have found using Dungeon Saga. That's what I've been recently playing. Dungeon Saga, a brief history. It's made by Mantic. So if you enjoyed Hero Quest, and I know it's been re-released. I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the original Hero Quest that was released. And you like that type of board game, light beer and pretzel type of RPG sort of, we'll say it's not really an RPG. It's kind of got an RPG feel to it, but it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a miniature board game. Dungeon Saga was created by people who used to work for Games Workshop and then went off and created their own company, you know, kind of like what you see with D&D and Pathfinder, kind of same scenario there. And they created Mantic and created Dungeon Saga. And they have created other board games as well that I own, but I really enjoyed Dungeon Saga. Dungeon Saga is just, it's a simplistic game. I enjoy miniatures, and with the game, I had picked up the expansion for solitaire play, to where it had introduced this thing called Uncharted Dungeons. And so then every time you play through the scenario solitaire, you're drawing a card. You didn't know how the map was going to unfold, and that system unto itself is excellent for what it is, and is a solid system unto itself. But not every system out there is like that, right? There's maybe a lot of different types of games that you want to play, but, you know, they require a minimum of 2 players. And that's where the Solo System really shines, and it really does basically set up an artificial opponent for you, and it's going to make those decisions so you can focus on your side of the board, and you'll be quite surprised to find out how just ruthless it can actually be. As a matter of fact, I had decided to go back, start over Dungeon Saga again, and started with the very first introduction map scenario, and I played it plenty of times. And even using the Uncharted Dungeons, I always kind of had the upper hand on it. But this time, going through it using the Solo System, barely made it through with the skin of my teeth. I did complete it. But, I mean, excuse me. It was down to the wire. It was really down to the wire, and I was like, wow. I was astounded. Now, using the system with an RPG, I think it's going to depend on your playing tastes, and some of you may find it very beneficial and you may enjoy it, while others may feel like it's just a little too convoluted, and you may want more, how should I put this, better descriptors for what you're trying to achieve, especially if you like a very story-rich type of environment. Then there may be other sources you may want to look at for that. But if not, if you're just playing, you know, your typical high-adventure fantasy type of RPG where everything's going to be moving forward at a pretty fast clip, pretty much kick the door in style, I think the solo system would work just well for you. And as far as wargamers, come on. You constantly want to be challenged. That's the part of the fun of the game, is the resource management and the strategy, being able to set up your tactics, hoping that your enemy is going to walk into your trap so you get the upper hand on the situation, and ultimately pull it off at the end of the day to see if you changed the course of history or if it has remained the same. It's yet to be determined in the war game until you try. So that's where the solo system comes in. That's where it's a very, it's unique. I mean, it's the only thing I've ever, you know, I so far can say that I have used, that I've seen like this. I haven't really seen anything else out there. Now, that's not to say that somebody else or other publishing companies have not put out products like this that may mirror this or very closely resemble it, but to its credit, it's an excellent system. Now, you can find this two different places on the web. One of them is through RPG Drive-Thru. You can go in there, buy the PDF, and then I looked at that route at first, and then you got to purchase the PDF, and then I sat down and I calculated it out, how much it was going to cost in ink and paper to print this all off, and then of course buying the protective card sleeves to put them in there to, you know, keep them protected. And then I just looked at how much it was going to cost to go direct to the company and have them make me the official, you know, box with the on the actual card stock and all that. And when I had factored it out, and I think it was like, there was a $12 difference, and that was after shipping. I mean, it was going to cost me $12 more to buy the PDF and print it and everything and buying the protective sleeves, and it was just to order it through them with shipping and everything and have it sent to me. And I'm glad I did go that route, because man, I love it. So let's jump into this. Let's jump into the solo system and explain how it works and why it's really beneficial for a solitaire player. So they break the deck up into 4 different categories, and it's not a playing card system. It's nothing like that. This is actually to help you. Now, the first thing is, like the board game, and a good example is Dungeon Saga, like I'm playing, is your opponent. What is the personality of your opponent? And what is their perspective on the game? And how does it differ from yours? And the interesting thing is you pick a personality type. Now, currently with my Dungeon Saga, the personality type is the Defender. And with the Defender, it also, you're going to pick up a card, and it's going to give you a brief summary over how that Defender is going to basically carry out its turn, and the most likely way that it would think in that mindset if it was the Defender. Another one I have here, the Scholar. I mean, we got Albert Einstein there, and it's pretty much sums it up that it's the Scholar. So how would the Scholar go about the game? How would they think about it? And of course, it gives you that other card to be able to look at the summary and get a better idea how that personality type is going to play against you. So then it moves into 3 different areas of the solo system and how it'll affect, and it really shined through on this. I can say for me, with these type of board games, that I'll be using the solo system, utilizing it a lot because it's great fun. But the next thing it goes into is the probability. probability is interesting because you get to that point in the game where your miniature has just entered into this room. You're out of the line of sight of, let's say, 2 encounters. It's the end of your turn. Now it's your opponent's turn, and you're asking the question, okay, now that I am in an area that could possibly be threatened, and those miniatures have every ability and legal move to attack my characters, do they? Well, if you're playing solitaire, this is where it can get a little mucky, because you're always going to look at the best interest of your side, right? You don't want to lose all your playing pieces. You know, that's not the object. You don't do this to lose all the time, although sometimes you do lose. You do this because you want to win. You want to have fun. But that's where the probability comes into, where it takes a lot of that off of you, and it can either work to your benefit or against. Now, how it does that is, if you look at this card right here, it's gonna break it up into 3 different little bubbles down there of probability, and then up here you got these 2 circles, one red, one yellow. And you would look at your personality card, and your personality card, of course, it's going to down here represent, boom, that color. You can see it's very red, and that's going to break that down into that probability for you. So like with this, depending on the game, the scholar would go with the minimum bid, as well with the defender. But if it was more of yellow, it would depend. So you would look at that, and I would say, okay, I'm in the red, minimum bid, which I'm looking at the probably, not the unsure, or not probably, but probably. And would those minis actively attack my character that has just entered the room? And the probability says yes. Okay, so now I know that the AI opponent is in fact going to move their minis and begin their attack against mine. So what goes on after that? What is the next step? Well, it breaks it down further into 2 different sections that really help flesh this out more, and it really does feel like you're playing against another person, and how the game pieces are going to react. And the first thing it goes into is tactics. I love the tactics card, and it can be used for a broad range of games. The tactic card is going to break it down into a visible format for you like this, and it's going to show you how that piece is going to move on the board and how it's going to react. Okay, a good example is this right here. This tactic is called build up. So the miniature pieces are going to move forward on their terrain or the board or however you're playing, and its target is going to be the weakest of your units, and its objective will be to regroup. So it's going to want to target your weakest, but ultimately it's going to want to build its numbers up for the next round of attack to completely eliminate your pieces off the board. This is excellent. This is a really, really great resource with wargaming, particularly because you're sitting there looking at a map, you're moving your units around the map, and when you're playing solitaire, unless there's already a system built in to help make those decisions as to how it's going to move on the board versus yours, this pretty much takes all of that out. It's going to say, okay, this is the tactic. This is what your opponent is going to do, and this is how they're going to move, which is great. That speeds things up. That gives you more time to be able to focus on the game, and it's taking a lot of the heavy lifting of that side off of you and alleviating that. Now, last but not least, the last card is strategy. And strategy is huge, particularly, well, in board gaming and wargaming. Not so much with RPG games, really. I mean, RPG games are a thing of their own. Is there a level of strategy to them? Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, depending on how that game is set up, particularly if you are trying to solve a puzzle or maybe unlock an elaborate lock and to get beyond that door, and maybe the way that the adventure is set up, it's, well, it's trying to steer you away from that and into a different area, maybe a secret location on the map or something that you are not fully aware of yet. And it's kind of reason why that was put in there. So you could argue that that's some strategy, but really at the end of the day, I wouldn't consider that strategy. So that's where I say, for me, and I speak for me personally, when I say that the solo system can be utilized in an RPG system, but I don't think all 4 cards are going to be very beneficial, whereas of just like the strategy, for me, it doesn't fit very well. So it would be one that I would just drop that section right out of the deck altogether if I was using it for an RPG. And like I said, I tried with the One Ring. It felt as if with the One Ring using this deck that it was actually too slow and muddied things up compared to using the Strider mode that was just far more streamlined. And of course it was written for that game, and it just helped everything move along more seamlessly. And so I didn't really have a good experience with it with the One Ring. But then when I broke out Dungeon Saga and said, hey, this is what I'm going to use, that's when this deck really came alive, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool system, and had a lot of fun with it. But sorry about that, kind of got off the beaten track. The strategy system. So the strategy, when you draw this card, is going to break it up into 3 different sections. So you get the start phase. So your opponent will focus on an area, capture tactics, or to dominate a specific part of the board. Okay, fair enough. So you can already see, looking at that, hey, this is where the opponent's going to go. This is where he's going to focus. So now I get to change my strategy up to be able to try to go a different route to win this, and hopefully knock the legs off the chair, if you will, so the opponent falls square on his butt, right? Then it gets into the mid phase, because it breaks it up into 3 areas, and then it says the opponent will continue a similar strategy that it did in the first phase. It will differ only in the type of things it was trying to collect. So it changes things up. It gives you that freedom as the game is going to change, as resources deplete, as things move on. Now it's going to change that. It's going to adapt with the change of the game flow itself. And then, of course, last but not least, you get into the end phase of your strategy, which is if the opponent has achieved a few of its mid-phase goals, it switches to the end phase. So, as you can see there, they write that in, taken into account as you play the game, and as you go through, things are going to change. The dynamics of that scenario are going to change based on just really how bad you are getting your butt kicked, and or you're kicking your opponent's butt. You know, is what it is. So it's an excellent system. It really is. And if you're a solitaire gamer, and if you're like me, okay, a great example I'm going to use. I don't have a whole lot of free time throughout my day. So currently I'm putting in 11 hours a day at work, 5 days a week. And this time of year, it's winter. So, you know, wanting to do something outside, the weather's just doesn't cooperate. It's too cold. It's just, and if you're like me, you don't like the cold, that just takes another thing out of it. Trying to find people, first of all, who want to get together and play these games, that enjoy it, that understand it, that may be on the same level of your understanding of where you're at in the rule set. All these things where they may be delays. Or I think the one thing that affects most game groups, I'm not going to say affect, but plagues it, is scheduling. Trying to get everybody on the same page at the same time in the same place to be interested in the same thing, which is almost next to impossible, and particularly in the day and age that we live in today, considering how fast everything moves, everybody's connected, how stuff changes so rapidly. And so it's getting harder and harder, unless you are a younger person and, you know, your responsibilities are school and what you have after school, but then you have your whole afternoon and evenings free and you have your friends do these, then scheduling is not that big of an issue. But for most adults that enjoy these type of games, scheduling can be a huge thing, considering you compound in work, you compound in family, you compound in all these other factors that, you know, we all go through. It doesn't leave you a whole lot of time at the end of the day to actually have time to sit down on a game. So most people are either going to jump over to the computer and play a computerized game or what have you, or like what I do, solitaire, find systems to be able to enjoy these games on my time, on my scheduling, what time permits for me to be able to do. And the solo system can really help with that, particularly if you're struggling with board games, you're struggling with war games or anything like that, that, you know, you want to take them off the shelf, open them up and run through them, but you don't have somebody else to play them with you. The solo system will take care of that for you, and it will keep it fresh. Now, I will say this, if you're looking into picking up the solo system, you may want to look at the route that I went versus just doing the PDF and then having to print everything out yourself. Reason why I say that is when you get the cards, they are made out of a high quality card stock. They also have just like a standard 52 deck playing card, they have a protective covering on them to be able to withstand scratches and stuff like that. So it's going to give you it's going to give you quite a bit of life on these cards, and you know, as you go through them, as the years go on. Whereas if you're just printing this stuff off on your computer on a regular card stock, you're not going to get that. So then you're into protective sleeves and having to go that route, and you know, that's just a whole nother layer of expense that maybe you don't want to put into. Then, like I said, for me, the deciding factor for me was looking at the cost of how much paper is this going to cost, which paper is not that expensive. The real expensive part is the ink and printing this stuff out, because a lot of it, I think, would be taken away. A lot of the art and the thinking that went into this and just the overall background would be kind of cheapened in a black and white print, if you will, and I think it would lose a lot to it, whereas when everything is in color, it just brings more to life, and you can see all those little details. That's the word I'm looking for, details. All those little details that they put into it that kind of makes it very cool. When you look at it and you're actually looking at this, as I'll explain to you, you can see they just have all this cool little stuff. Even if you look down at the very top, you can see the guy double checking the bomb on the wing of the fighter jet. But as you look down, of course, you have, you know, your classic graph paper or square cut movement grid, and then you're going to have your hex grid, and, you know, just so on and so forth. Which, does that change the playability of the deck and what it uses? Absolutely not. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, if you really do enjoy the deck, I think just getting this already printed on high quality cardstock with a protective sheen on it is just going to last, and you're going to be more happy with it for the years to come as you use it, particularly if you find this as beneficial as I do. And I have one regret, I really do. My friend told me about this, and he kept harping to me about it. I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out, I'll check it out, I'll check it out. And I just kept putting it on the back burner. And then eventually I said, you know, I got these board games, I want to play them. So I decided, what the heck, why not? And then, of course, using this with Dungeon Saga, I was just kind of kicking myself in the ass saying, why haven't you done this before now? I mean, this is just taking the game to a whole completely different level. Even though I am still playing solitaire, this is changing everything. It's offering me more of a challenge to the game, because it's going into areas that if I was just to play solitaire myself, where I would look at the game board and say, okay, logically, I'm looking at this and say my barbarian moved in here. This is within his line of sight, that. Who's the closest miniature? This is going to be the closest miniature. And this miniature on his turn is going to initiate the next round of attack, followed by this one, and so on and so forth. Whereas if this breaks it up more and it says, well, no, it may not target my barbarian because my barbarian may have full health. But really, what this encounter is going to do is this going to bypass my barbarian altogether, and my magic user that is barely holding on to life. I mean, he just really had his ass handed to him in the last round. That's going to be his target. He's going to take the magic user out. And of course, that's going to be bad for me because I don't want to lose my magic user. My magic user is able to do really cool things with his magic on the board, and kind of, without him, well, I would have probably lost. So, all food for thought. It's all food for thought. It's all things that, I just wanted to get this out there. I wanted to talk about this. And now, this has been out for a long time. I can tell you, my friend was telling me about this, and he's been using it for years and years, and telling me, hey, man, I use this with my RPGs. I use this with this. I use that with that. And it's his main go-to. And I have, like I said, I have to admit, with war games and board games particularly, if you are watching this and you have bought into the new re-release of Hero Quest, and maybe you're having a hard time finding people to want to play that game, and you got a lot of money invested in it, but you want to play the game, look into the solo system. The solo system is going to alleviate that, and it's going to allow you to go through scenarios and play them and be able to focus and play on your side. Another thing that it can be used for particularly is if, let's say, you are playing in a large group, and maybe whatever board game you are currently playing, you're new to it, you're still kind of lost on some of the rules, maybe some of the ideas and concepts of the rules, you're not really have a 100% full grasp on them. And the best way to learn them is to run through the game system, get into them situations, and see how the rules are meant to be to resolve that situation. The solo system can really help you with that, because now you can sit down and run through this game. You can really well verse yourself in it and the different scenarios that you may get into, and how the rules are exactly meant to be utilized as written for that particular situation. And then when you go back and you go to play with your group again, you're just going to be further ahead. You're going to have a deeper understanding, and you're going to have a more enjoyable time, because instead of being in a state of confusion, trying to figure out what just happened. Now you're going to be able to say, yeah, okay, I remember that. I remember how this rule was resolved and what it meant. And it'll also help if somebody that may be running the game you may be playing with does not fully comprehend the rules themselves. You're getting a very loose interpretation from their perspective, which may not be the right one, but taken at face value. If you're not that well versed at them, you won't know any different. And well, that's part of the learning curve of our hobby, right? So it can be utilized as that too, as a tool to be used to help you learn new rule sets and get them underneath your belt, which gives you the freedom and the time to play them, and leaves the heavy lifting of the opponent to the AI system. You know, I hate to say that about this. I hear this so much nowadays. You know, people say, this is an AI, this is an AI. Bullshit. It's not an AI, it's a piece of cardboard. AI, you know, I'm pretty sure with AI is, you know, just terabytes upon terabytes of information ran through a processor that's randomly picked for its program. And I by no means am I a computer guru. When it comes to computers, I'm rather illiterate compared to a lot more people out there. But that's the one thing that I see that I have a hard time saying, oh, this is the AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It's not intelligent. It's not anything. If you ask me, it is a beneficial aid for us as solitaire players to be able to, because let's face it, at any time when I play this card out, right, this tactic card, and I set this down, that the card's not going to be moving the pieces on the board for my opponent. I will be moving those. So that's where I have a hard time with the AI. I understand the notion behind it. Hey, it's AI, it's going to do the thinking for you. But really, at the end of the day, no, it's helping you. It's a tool to help to alleviate some of that burden on you. From instead of playing two sides at once, you can focus on your side, and this is going to allow the deck to be able to manage and make decisions where you don't have to focus on that, but you do have to deal with it, which is really good. So, the solo system, like I said, if you have not checked it out, it's a great system. And you know what? I don't even know who makes this. I saw it, I picked it up, and I'm not even 100%. Oh, man. Huh. Okay, so this is a condensed version of the rules for the full set of rules and a guide to using the solo system. Please find the PDFs found on www.boardgeek.com/boardgame/blah, solo system. So it'll probably be something later on after I upload the video. I can go in there to the comments and I can put this down. I can also hold that up so you can see it. Come on, focus, 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 focus. Right there. Yeah, I'll have to put it in the comments. It's not wanting to focus all that well, but anyways, I just wanted to get that out there, guys. I wanted to put this out there, introduce it to you. Like I said, maybe the majority of you already use it and this is old news to you, or maybe you've never heard of it. I don't know where you stand at that, but so if you have not heard that about this until now you can say you have. And they even advertise play multiplayer games solitaire. So the cool thing about this is it just doesn't have to be for war games, just doesn't have to be for dungeon crawlers. Heck, you could go and pull your old copy of Monopoly off the shelf and set it out on the board, and you could play Monopoly with this and it will still have the same function. As a matter of fact, it's just a generic, basically, system to cover many systems. Now, for RPGs, I can just say for me personally, I won't be using this for my RPG systems. I have my other resources that I use when I do play my RPGs. And I've went through those extensively on my channel. I talked about, you know, you're going to have Mythic and you're going to have Scarlet Heroes, the solo engine in there that I enjoy to use. Plus I have my randomized tables I use. So I've already developed a system for myself that I use for my games, where as far as this goes, this for me really works better for my board games and my war games. And I'm glad, because the reason why I'm glad about that is it really does break everything up. So when I say, hey, I want to play an RPG and sit down and play an RPG, I have my system, which is completely different from this. So it doesn't feel like I'm playing a generic overall one system to rule them all for all game systems. But when I go to play a war game or a board game and I break this out, it's a different system, it's a different feel, a different perspective on it, and it is cool. It's good to be a solitaire gamer. All right, my friends, with that being said, I think this is where I'm going to leave the video off, and is what it is. Game on, my friends. I hope you all are doing great out there. I hope you all are having fun. It's a brand new year. We're here into 2023, and let's hope that 23 is a better year than, you know, the last couple of years, because I think I speak for many out there when I say the last couple of years have been a rough go, and I think it's time we all deserve a break, and we at least get a year that runs somewhat what we would call normal, and not full of so much, well, stress and bullcrap that we have just come to accept as the norm of everyday life. And maybe it'll give us the chance to take a breather, you know, kick our shoes off, kick back, and really re-engage into the tabletop hobby again, and remember, hey, this is what it's all about. This is why I put up with all the bull crap of everyday life, is for when I get to this moment, when I get to relax and I get to actually indulge into a high fantasy action-packed type of game world, to where I can forget about everything else and I can just focus on this for an hour or so, and yeah, de-stress a little bit. All right, my friends, those are my thoughts, not yours. And if you liked the video, like I said, don't forget to like the like button. You'll get more gaming content, and I'm not saying it just for me. Really, I can care less, you know, if you do click the like button or not. I'm just suggesting it for you because it's going to help you out, not me as much. And the subscribe button. If you're new here, click the subscribe, because I don't upload a video. I'm not like your typical YouTuber where I live on YouTube and every day I'm going to give you an update of what happened in the last 5 minutes of my life, and I'm just not about that. I'm about this gaming, and when I get the time, because this is my hobby, I'll be like, hey, you know, hey, I got some time. I got an extra hour here that is free and available to me, and maybe I'm gonna go make a video. So with that being said, my friends, this is Artichoke Dip signing off.